Just a quick audio check. Can you guys hear me?
No, it's very choppy. No. No. Sounds like a robot. Nope. I hear noise, but that's it.
If we
The answer guys can go and I will work.
Okay, can you guys hear us, those who are online?
Yes.
Yes.
We can now.
Yes.
Just gonna turn this, I can see it.
Just gonna pair it back to the other one. That one works.
You can still hear us?
Yes.
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 Okay.
I will.
Okay. This is a call to order of a special meeting of the Bridgeport Board of Education. Today's date is Thursday, July 9th, 2022, and the time is 6:07 PM. Mr. Secretary, would you call the roll?
Yes, and there's no video.
That's the workaround. I can
Okay.
see you though.
Okay, all right. So Sybil Allen, Christine Baptiste Perez, Albert Benahan,
Present.
Erica Castillo, Michael Macaron,
Here.
Joseph Sokolovic,
Present.
Bobby Brown,
Present.
John Weldon,
Present?
and Joseph Lombard present.
Okay. All right, we're gonna stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Of America,
to the republic
to the
for which it
republic,
stands,
which it
one
stands,
nation,
one
under
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record reflect that Christine Baptiste Perez has entered the meeting. Student representative reports. Don't see any online, and there's none present in the room. Public comment. No one has signed up for public comment. I'm going to dispense with the chairman's report and go on to committee reports and referrals. Ad hoc district-wide branding initiative. Do you have anything to report, Ms. Brown?
Nope, only that we have our next meeting, which will be on Wednesday, June 15th. And that will be, I think for 6 o'clock at Central High School.
Okay.
Point of order. I don't
Yes.
think there's public comment. I don't know if there was a sign-up sheet available.
It's here. It was there. And nobody signed up.
Nobody signed up.
No.
There's people in the audience that can't.
Are you here for public comment?
And they weren't aware to sign up.
Your reference.
This is a special meeting, 6 o'clock. This is regular board education meeting. It's a special meeting.
with public comment.
We running like that regular. What did the parents commission say? There's a special meeting. Whatever you talk about here. Oh, security, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was about to say something for privilege.
Well, it's good to have fun, right?
That's good. Even if I forgot that. I don't know what's going on today.
Screaming.
Okay, we have 3 people who have signed up for public comment. I can't make out the first name, but the last name is Aguirre. Daniela, is it? Daniela Aguirre? Go to the podium. Please keep your comment limited to 2 minutes. Is there a microphone for? The mic's nowhere. If you try to, you can remove your mask if you like.
Mr. Chair, is the video off?
Yes, the video is off. It's the workaround so we can get the mic to work.
Okay.
Sorry.
Very important matter. This bullying has been nonstop and there's been action taken about it, irrespective. Many victims, including my sister, who is an extraordinary student, excellent GPA, and the bullying has affected her ability to do the work to the best that she can. So, of course, as a former freshman student, I'm very aware of this issue and how things have been when it needs to go there. Administration was never the best at solving these types of problems, and now that the thing has gotten even worse, I'm scared for all the kids that are there, and I want to know what the Board of Education can do about it, because we have evidence of things, we have a whole timeline, like, of the many cases and stuff that happened in multiple students. And I'm here as a voice for them, because, like my sister, a bunch of students are shy and timid, and when principal or someone goes up to them to speak about it, she may not say the entire thing because she's scared at the moment and does not know how to present her voice and project it to discipline the other bullies.
Okay, thank you.
Can a microphone be brought there?
There's no microphones working in the building, I understand. Is that correct?
Okay. We didn't hear anything.
Hang on. What are you saying?
We can take that one and go.
Okay, so they're going to put a mobile mic at the podium. Tia Coquest? Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Tia Conquest. I'm a former 11th grader at Central High School. As the same thing as Daniela, my sister's in 7th grade. The bullying has been a non-stop thing since she's been in 4th grade. We have took numerous actions of bringing it to administrators. Recently this year, my parents had a meeting with the principal. I wish more action was taken. She said no action could be taken until they did investigating. I feel like just not enough action has been taken because we recently went to Park City Magnet to do a group meeting to discuss the bullying, to see if anyone would like to open up to us. And it still is happening. This meeting happened on May 26th. And it's just still happening. And as Daniela said, we just want to see more action kind of being taken so the bullying could stop, because it has affected my little sister in multiple different ways, especially this year as her transitioning into going to 8th grade.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Daniel Aguero?
Good evening, everyone. How are you? I'm Daniel Aguero. I'm Daniela's dad, and I'm here to I'm aware of what's going on with the situation. It's been many years, and if you look at it, bullying is a very serious thing in the whole world, the whole United States. A lot of kids commit suicide because of that, right? Regardless of what's going on in their life, there's they might have problems at home. They might be scared to open up, and it's a serious matter. And also as a parent, I would like to see more action being taken. And if you have a round apple, right, that round apple needs to stay out to don't damage all the fruit. And I'm very concerned. More action should have been taken. Unfortunately, I don't know what the issue is, whether it's investigation or whatever. But hopefully you could take more serious on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you three for coming here. We have your telephone numbers. And Mr. Testani, I would expect you're going to take a look into this and follow up with these folks when it's appropriate. Okay? All right. This concludes public comment. Again, committee reports and referrals. Were you finished, Ms. Brown?
I was just saying that we're meeting on June 16th.
Okay.
Sorry, June 15th, at Central High School, 6:00 p.m.
Okay. Thank you. Ad hoc district-wide calendar committee, Mr. Lombard.
Yes, so we had our first meeting and I think it was fruitful. We planned our scheduled meetings until the end of the year when the next calendar will be decided upon, and received opinion from legal counsel to help us with our guidelines, which there will be someone representing legal counsel at our next meeting, and possibly even someone from CABE as well to help with the discussions. And that meeting is set for Monday, June 20th at 5:30 at Central High School.
Okay, thank you. Contracts Committee met on June 2nd, and that meeting resulted in the 5 items that you see, items 11A through E. So we'll take those up later in the meeting. Educational Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Chair, can we just back up for a minute to calendar committee?
Uh-huh.
I got a question about the report. What lawyer is coming? Is it going to be the city side, or are we going to be billed tomorrow?
It's
Okay,
It's Bertram,
yeah.
And do we think that's a wise expenditure to get it out? Because
I think you should just let him run his meeting. He'll get into
but
it.
I think expenditures, committees are not able to give expenditures without.
I asked for the attorney.
So you think this is
At his request. I do. I think it'll provide a lot of clarity.
And what is the ultimate goal of this expenditure?
So I
To
can
give the-
speak, I can
Go
speak
ahead.
to that. So you were at the meeting, Joe, so I know you know what we discussed, and it was to talk about having some guidelines so that we have possible future requests for considerations for secular or non-secular holiday considerations, that we would know that we were within the parameters of the law. So it's not just something made without considering those Connecticut statutes. So it's to have that information presented to the committee and anyone else who attends, so that we could be informed as we move forward.
But we just did that when we approved the Muslim holiday without violating the law.
Okay,
Well-
so this is a discussion I think you need to have at the committee level. Joe has explained why Bertram Moses is going to be at his committee meeting. Arrangements have also been made for the policy people at CABE to be there as well. And I think you should let that meeting happen and see where it goes.
I would just like to see that bill, how much we spent on this.
Okay. When it comes, we'll let you know.
Also, I can comment on that.
Mhm.
If the standard is for a non-secular purpose, why isn't the email that we received regarding the applicable for all upcoming meetings? Because during the meeting, you said that was legal guidance. as
Okay.
received. So,
Well,
how repetitive do you need it to be for the committee?
This is the council will be there to answer various questions. And they're developing a more expansive opinion that talks about a lot of other things as
Will the
well.
committee submit questions in advance? That way the attorney can have answers. in
You could
advance?
do that. You could do
So
that.
way it's possible for the district.
You could do that.
I'm not on the committee.
Anyone could do that. Okay. Educational diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes, we will not be meeting until for the end of the year, and I think probably part of that committee is going to be looking at any policies that are created, making it harder for students to get holidays off.
Okay. Facilities Committee. We'll be meeting on Monday, June 13th. We will be discussing some issues related to Hall and Edison School, and we will also receive the stewardship report from the Facilities Committee. Finance, Mr. Sullivan.
Okay, yeah, we kind of missed the referrals, but I can think of, as part of my finance report, since they're referrals from the finance committee itself, not just an individual referral. Finance met on May 31st, discussed upcoming fiscal cliff and ESSER funding. In discussing the upcoming fiscal cliff, we came to the conclusion that although elected officials and the people who are responsible for funding, they don't seem to be taking it seriously. We as a board, we need to take it seriously and start making some proactive moves, because some of the cuts that may or may not have to be made are long-term in nature for planning purposes. So the following referrals came out of finance. Facilities to look at the utilization of all our buildings, make sure they're being utilized to their fullest potential, and for the best funding. So we capture some savings there. And for contracts, we came up with the referral for the contracts to look at RFPs for our non-certified staff, because it's very, very closely. We've got some contracts that we don't negotiate, and they take thousands and thousands of hours per year, not during the school year, that we have to put substitutes in for. So we need to find out where the saving, see if we can derive savings with upcoming cuts without touching the classrooms. Because the most important thing is going to be to preserve our certified staff with a high caliber education for our students. And we got to look everywhere. This upcoming fiscal cliff is real. Our elected officials aren't going to be responsible and fund us. We need to be proactive in making sure we're ready for it.
Governance Committee has not met. It would be meeting tonight, or this past Monday night normally, but the calendar indicated that was going to be a regular meeting, so it was not held. The next meeting would be scheduled for on the other side of the summer. Personnel
Chair, just quickly, Do we want to try to have one governance to see if there's any more movement toward finalizing the field trip policy prior to the start of the school year so
Maybe
that
that.
we can enter the school year with
Okay.
finalized policy if we can, between now and September 1st, maybe
Okay.
get that.
If you got it ready to go?
We made some changes. I'd like to, just if we can meet again. And
Okay.
again, it doesn't have to be finalized immediately when the school year starts, but maybe before we get too far into September and possible trips begin to be
Sure.
planned.
All right, we'll schedule something by the end of the month. Okay. Personnel Committee met on Tuesday, the 7th. Interviews were held for the position of principal at Beardsley School, and a referral was made to the superintendent. A recommendation. I don't know if you've made a decision on that yet.
Be interviewing both candidates tomorrow morning and a final decision made probably Monday.
Okay.
Latest.
Students and families.
Our next meeting is going to be on June 16, 2022 in Central High School at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Teaching and learning.
Our last meeting was we just reviewed field trips, discussed the Team of Life project, Footsteps to Brilliance, and Partners for Education. I'm going to make a referral to my committee for the next meeting to look into the bullying policy in the schools, because in addition to public comment, I've received 3 parent calls and text messages regarding bullying in East Battalion School. And the gravity of it is crossing other ramifications that I will discuss with the superintendent that is beyond bullying, that is a concern in the district. Also, our bullying policy hasn't been updated since 2011. And so we need to look at that and to see whether it's actually being implemented in each school, especially for our younger students, because Italia and Park City are elementary middle school. So we should be taking that into account during our meetings, how old our policy is and whether it's being effective or not.
Okay. Superintendent's report, Mr. Testani.
Just a few items briefly. We have some things to get to. First, if we can just take a moment to acknowledge, unfortunately, the passing of Miss Ivy Phillips, longtime paraprofessional who suddenly passed away over the weekend at from Central High School. You just take a moment of silence to recognize and just keep in mind thoughts or prayers of Miss Ivy's family. Thank you. Last week we held the annual math meet at Sacred Heart University, and I'd just like to congratulate and acknowledge John Winthrop School for repeating as math meet champions. Congratulations to the students and teachers at John Winthrop for another strong showing. There was a 3-way tie for second, and then it got broken by the rules of the competition in regards to the last question and how it's answered. It's pretty complicated, but second place went to Blackham School. Third place ended up being Multicultural Magnet, and then a close sharing of that from Park City Magnet. And the students at Johnson School received the Most Improved Award from last year to this year in their point accumulation. So congratulations to all those schools. I want to just again congratulate all the graduates from adult education last week. We had almost 100 students participate that completed their either high school diploma or GED passing of their exam. So congratulations to those folks. Saturday, we had two amazing events that were held. Our collaboration with Don Wilson and the efforts of Mark Harp and Tim Grasty and the flag football, kickball, and track meet over at Harding High School. We had over 400 students from across the district compete. Friendly competition, healthy competition. It was just a great day to see kids, and their families actually came out to support them throughout the event. So just great job by, again, Tim Grasty, Mark Harp, and Don Wilson for their hard work and dedication. And we look forward to the continuation. It's last week was the kickoff Peace Week that we've been working with, and it culminates this Saturday at Seaside Park. So come on down. As Don said the other day at our coaches banquet, come with your sneakers and get ready to participate in some of the games if you're interested on Saturday. And just a reminder, Tuesday, June 14th, this coming Tuesday's graduation day. We kick off at 9 a.m. over at Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater, and it culminates at 5:30 p.m. with the final graduation. So look forward to everyone. If you can't make it for the entire day, for as many ceremonies to support the graduates for the class of 2022. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, questions?
I have a question.
Benahan?
Mrs. Sistani. I know I already sent you an email, but parent keep asking me. That's about the only way I can ask you is the board education. You never answer me back. Parents want to know what they can do about what program or how they can help them for LGBT situation going up with this month LGBT, because I got parents, they son and daughter would like to go a place they can listen to them, understand, they can feel more safe, or have somebody that can communicate with them. And don't come on. I know we got social work, we got our people, they good, but I don't think so. They're more, they would not know what's going on with that child in that situation by LGBT. Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe they are they're ready for the child when they ask questions.
Well, we don't have any specific personnel that's dedicated for that purpose. But again, social workers, school counselors, some schools have organizations and clubs that are at the schools. That may not be consistent throughout all the high schools or all the schools, but there are some where someone takes the lead on that type of organization or club. But it's really just social work and school counselors. There's no program specific, but they are equipped to help connect students and families to resources in the community if necessary.
All right, thank you. And also, you forgot to say about Discovery.
Oh, sorry. You're right. There was two events on Saturday. A multicultural event up at Discovery Magnet School. Parents and staff participated. Mr. Benahan, thank you and Mr. Skolvik, your attendance. Food and music and just representation of cultures throughout the school. Everyone got to experience and mingle, and I thought it was a great event. And I know those are happening pre-COVID, happened more frequently throughout the district. It's good to see those types of events where we can celebrate all the many cultures that are a melting pot here in Bridgeport Public School community. Thank you for reminding me. You're welcome.
I have a
Just back around.
quick question. This month is Pride Month, is it not?
Yes.
And, what are we, I don't know, but what are we doing in the schools to maybe talk about or have the students understand that this is an important time for them to, get together and think about what Pride Month really means.
You know, it's probably, to be honest with you, it's varied by building. You know, it is, you know, you get into this part of the school year, it becomes a wind down of end of the year activities, graduations, promotions, and those exams. So it's a difficult month, you know, to really plan for and celebrate. But I'm sure there are things going on. It varies by at what level at each school. So that's just the honest answer.
Agenda item for.
Okay. There's no old business.
Can I just add one component?
Sure.
And, you know, as we go and speak at the next teaching and learning, the policy can be revisited. I think the policy, I haven't looked at our policy in a while when it relates to bullying, but it is in line with state law. And we do have to often, and I think given the return to full in person from everyone this year, maybe put more of an effort at the beginning of next school year to educate students and families again on what the parameters are of what bullying is, and the ways to report and how to handle that in a more systemic way than, because I think something could have gotten lost over the last couple of years due to the pandemic. And
ESSER funds. So the social, emotional, and the outbursts, whether it's leading to additional bullying and issues, you know, that should be taken care of. Because if we're going to say it's something related to the pandemic, and then maybe it's something that legal counsel can look into us, because the assumption is nothing's changed in the last 11 years legally.
well, there is state statute around what is bullying. I think the word, as in some cases, is used loosely. There is a repetitiveness that must exist before it's categorized as bullying. But there's also, I think, sometimes, because I've had conversations recently with some parents about how it's handled in terms of consequences. Now, there needs to be a restorative, and that's why we spend a lot of time and emphasis on restorative practices, not punitive punishment. Because that's not going to resolve the issue. And the SEL component is obviously a large focus of today, how we operate our schools and moving forward. But I don't know if we do enough in communicating what has been done and what next steps are if things aren't resolved or they fester back up again. But just I think that's an important component to all of this as well. There's, you know, how it's reported, whom it's reported to, and then what the follow-up is around that. But it's a great topic to get into in committee.
There's no old business to conduct, new business. First item is discussion and possible approval to enter into contract for student transportation services with We Transport LLC. I believe our CFO, Ms. Siegel, is here to discuss that.
Yes, I am. Good evening. I am going to place on the screen.
We don't see the screen.
Oh, you can't see it. Thank you.
No. Arlene, I would just highlight any changes to the contract.
Yeah.
Yes. So We Transport was the only bidder to the RFP that was issued in March of 2022. The contract will be for a 5-year period, 2022 to 2027. The contract will incorporate the management and routing services that were added in 2020-21 and 2021-22. and those services are now incorporated as part of the rate schedule rather than being incorporated with an additional fee. The 5-year period enables the district to secure the best possible pricing structure subject to economic factors that are affecting industries across the globe. Those factors include inflationary pressures, rising cost of fuel, labor shortages and the heightened cost of labor contracts, supply chain shortages and shipping delays for new equipment, and the availability of electric vehicles for lease or purchase. In view of the supply chain issues, we had to increase the age profile for the vehicles by 3 years. For the school buses from 10 to 13 years, and for the smaller vans from 8 to 11. However, we did add a provision to reduce the age profile when and if the supply conditions improve. And we do specify in the new contract that the provider agrees to make good faith efforts to reduce the profile of the bus fleet by up to a maximum of 3 years, subject to availability of new vehicles. We've also included in the new contract a provision pertaining to progressive electrification of the fleet. The electrification will be contingent upon the availability of vehicles, the availability of grant funding, and the adequacy of the required infrastructure to support those vehicles. But we do require that the provider replace a minimum of 50% of the existing fleet with brand new vehicles during the 5-year period. And in the replacement vehicles, they have to include a minimum of 15 brand new hybrid vehicles and 50 brand new electric vehicles. In terms of the rate schedule, within the next 1 to 3 years, we are projecting that hopefully inflation will ease, fuel prices will stabilize and potentially decline, and the supply chain will move more quickly. And if that does materialize, we included a clause for reconsideration of the rate schedule at a time when it is determined that cost savings could be derived due to the ratio of electric vehicles to gas vehicles and the associated shift from gasoline usage to charging stations. And so we included a provision requiring that the provider and the Board of Education agree to meet to reconsider the rate schedule with the intent of achieving cost savings for both parties if at a point in the 5-year period it is determined to be cost effective. The rate schedule is higher than we anticipated. As I indicated, we negotiated the best possible rate schedule under the conditions that I cited and in recognition of the global economic factors that apparently are continuing. And so in the first year, the increase in cost to the district is projected to be approximately $1.2 million. In the second year, about $800,000. In year 3, close to $700,000. In year 4, approximately $800,000. And in year 5, about $800,000. And so over 5 years, assuming there's stability in the usage, the total increase would be approximately $4.3 million. And that equates to a total percentage growth of 21.97 with a compounded factor of 23.95. So in summary, the rates are significantly higher than we had anticipated. However, we did have rather low rates in the prior contract, and these are the best rates that we can achieve in the current environment, considering the economic factors that are impacting on the transportation industry. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Ms. Baptiste Perez?
Who determines or makes the call for a motion for reconsideration on the prices? Is it us, the district, and do they have any recourse to say, no, it's not time to consider the price?
Were you able to hear her, Ms. Siegel?
I only heard it's a question about pricing, but I could not hear the question. I'm sorry.
She wants to know who determines and at what intervals that the price schedule should be revisited. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
we, at the district level in the finance office, we would be monitoring the various economic factors that I noted. And we will be working closely with We Transport to ensure that they are on track for the replacement of vehicles and the electrification of the fleet. And at a point in time when it is believed that that cost savings are being realized due to the electrification of the fleet and or other factors, we would approach We Transport, or We Transport could certainly reach out to the district. And in accordance with the clause that will be signed by both parties, we would then meet to negotiate, hopefully, a reduction in rate or some type of credit in the remaining years of the contract.
So it sounds like there isn't like some set point agreed to that the parties will come back together, i.e. at the end of each fiscal year or something like that. It's left to your discretion as to when you think it might be advantageous to open that discussion.
Well, the clause that we wrote specifies that it would be based on the existing ratio of HEV and EV vehicles to gas-driven vehicles in the fleet. At this point, I'm not aware that We Transport is utilizing any electric vehicles.
No, they're not.
And so the goal would be to acquire electric vehicles in lieu of gas vehicles through the various funding programs, grant programs that are available over the next few years. The bipartisan infrastructure law clean bus rebate program that we have been studying over the last week and that just opened and will close in the middle of August is a $500 million program in a $5 billion program over 5 years. And Bridgeport is a priority district. We Transport can pursue the opportunity through a partnership with a bus contractor. The bus contractor would be eligible to apply, and we are encouraging them to do so, and we will meet with them next week to further explore this opportunity. The school district can also apply and act as a fiduciary for the receipt of the rebates and the transfer of the funds to the bus company. So we are exploring which option would be best. And so with the bipartisan infrastructure law clean bus rebate program, that is a certainty, meaning it's rolling out. It's not a certainty that any district that applies will receive funding because it's done in through a random selection generator. But priority districts such as Bridgeport are given preference. Therefore, we have a strong expectation that over the next 5 years, we transport and other transportation companies in Connecticut and throughout the country will be electrifying through by taking advantage of these grant programs.
I have a question, Ms. Siegel.
Go ahead.
Macron had his hand up.
Mr. Macaron. Go ahead. You started. Finish your line of questioning.
So we transportation as an independent, not part of the district, can use the fact that it's servicing this district for preference for a federal grant?
Did you hear that?
No, I'm sorry, couldn't hear it.
Okay, we transportation, an independent business, will use the fact that it's servicing this Bridgeport, this district, to qualify for a federal grant.
Yes, but the rules of the program are that if they apply for the grant to service our district, they must utilize the buses in our district for at least 5 years.
But at the end of the 5 years, in theory, We Transport wouldn't have to bid to service Bridgeport anymore, could service another district and have a whole fleet of electric buses, right?
Well, at the end of the 5-year period, we would be going out to bid for a new contract.
But historically, we've only had one person or one company bid.
Right, but when in a new RFP, cannot be known today how many bidders there would be. We would hope there would be more than one bidder at that time, and there's no reason to expect that We Transport would not remain in business and want to continue to bid to service the district.
I think the answer to your question is yes, they could decide not to bid on our contract anymore after the 5 years and
But have the benefit of the federal grant.
have the benefit of the fleet to go bid on other districts.
Correct.
For their securing those contracts, yes.
And We Transport isn't just in Bridgeport. They service other properties in Long Island, and they could redeploy that fleet after 5 years anywhere they wanted to. Is that correct, Ms. Siegel?
I believe it is, based on our current reading of the regulations.
On the other hand, they would have the infrastructure in their Bridgeport facility to be charging them. So it's not like they could just pick the buses up and move them. You'd have to move all the charging stations that are physically installed in the building. So it's not, I don't see where it would be advantageous for them to do that. It would be costly for them.
But there is the possibility if they had
could.
charging stations that they
Elsewhere,
took advantage in other districts of the federal program as well.
Is there any consideration to the district purchasing?
We would
Actually
not be
having our
purchasing
own
buses.
fleet and then renting it over to We Transportation to guarantee that it's our fleet of electric buses?
Well, under the option of a district applying, the district does not purchase the buses. The bus company purchases the buses and applies to the district for the rebate by submitting the purchase orders. The district then submits the purchase order with a payment request form to the government, and the government then sends the rebate to the district for transfer to the bus company. So through either option, the bus company owns the buses.
Mike?
Mr. Macaron, go
Just a
ahead.
quick question, Miss. Oh, sorry. Hi, Ms. Siegel. I'm Mike Macaron. I just have a quick question. In your opinion, is the insurance that's being provided by We Transport sufficient enough to protect the district, as far as our students are concerned, in case of issues?
The contract was reviewed by the city attorney, and one of the elements that the city attorney checks very carefully is insurance. And so the section on the insurance requirements meets the limits that are required and was deemed to be sufficient by the city attorney.
Okay, thank you.
Joe. Mr. Skolovich?
Thank you. Yeah, a couple of questions. You mentioned,
Before you go, I'm just going to note that Mr. Lombard has left the meeting.
okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, a couple questions. We're talking about a 5-year contract. We were discussing before that the state was in the midst of changing the statute to allow 5-year contracts. Has that taken place yet?
State council,
Or state-
city council.
City council, apologies. Yeah, city council. Has that taken place yet?
It has not been formally voted on yet, from my understanding, no.
So we got a possibility that this contract could only be 3 years if it's voted down?
I believe this question came up in the contracts committee. What's your, Ms. Siegel, is the city council?
Well, I'm anticipating that the city council will approve the 5-year limitation increased from 3 years. As of this evening, I do not have confirmation that it has been presented and approved, but we do anticipate that it will be presented and approved in the month of June.
And do we have alternative contract ready to go? Should it be voted down? I mean, some sort of savings clause within the contract?
We've been informed by the city attorney's office that we can proceed with the 5-year agreement.
And what was my next question? I lost my next question. You can come back to me.
Okay. Anyone else? We're back to you.
Okay. I thought Joe was there. Oh, man. Okay, yeah. Is there, you mentioned about reopening negotiations for price savings for electric vehicles that either us or we could transport could bring a price renegotiation to the table?
Yes.
So for instance, if say they get their whole fleet electrified, would one of their rationales for not wanting to decrease the contract be able to be, we had to spend all this money to build out our fleet and they want to amortize that against the gas savings?
I think to Ms. Siegel's point, the money flows through us. We're the pass-through to them.
Right.
To receive the funding for their buses.
And is that the only way to reopen? Say gas prices, we don't electrify and gas prices drop down back down to $2.20 a gallon. Can we renegotiate
Yes.
at that point as well?
Yes. That was our understanding, that we would be able to approach them at that point.
I have a question. So you mentioned that charging stations at the school, are buses going to be, or something regarding the charging station?
At the depot,
Oh,
where they house them, yeah.
But they'll be, aside from it being physically housed there, there's not going to be any charging station for buses at the schools or any location.
No, I know there's been some discussion about having some charging stations for personal vehicles at the schools. But the city has not given any timeline to when that could occur.
Anything else? Okay. In that event, I'll entertain a motion to approve entering into the contract for student transportation services with Reed Transport LLC as presented by the CFO. I will make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Benahan. Any further discussion? All
I
in,
would prefer if we knew when city council is going to meet regarding the 3 years, or if it's going to be 5 years. I just think leaving that component up in the air is uncertain. It can back. I guess I can just imagine hypotheticals will work out against us.
It sounded to me like the city attorney's office gave us the blessing to do this, even if the city council doesn't approve it. We've done that before where we get an exemption from the 3-year to enter into a 5-year, and that's acceptable. Do you have that in writing, Ms. Siegel?
I don't believe we have, have it in writing, but again, our understanding is that, the city, legal office is in favor of, of approving 5-year contracts. And it is our expectation that the city council, will approve the 5-year provision. So,
So it's my understanding that this is kind of an issue because it's already taken a while since they submitted their proposal, and fuel prices are changing, and they need to know that they have a contract to be able to lock in their diesel pricing.
well, if we were to agree to a 3-year contract, the price structure would be higher than the 5-year
Understood.
agreement.
Understood. I'm just saying.
The 5-year agreement, while the structure is higher than we would have
No.
Excuse me?
No, what I'm saying is, because it's an issue with respect to the fuel pricing, I would suggest we approve entering into this agreement. And if the city council votes down a 5-year, the potential for 5-year agreements, at that point we can revisit it. So
well, then we would write into the agreement that it's 3 years with an option to extend for 1 or 2 years, with the approval of the legal office. But we would have to hope at that point that we transport would still agree to the same 5-year rate schedule, because they have to have certainty as well in order to plan over the next 5 years for maintenance and modernization of the fleet, including electrification. So I don't think this is going
all right.
to
So
be, I don't think it's going to be an issue, quite frankly. We're expecting that the change will be presented to the city council and that it will be approved. I would be surprised if it were not.
No, that's fine. I just have one final
I mean,
comment.
the city attorney, when he returned the contract to us, did not alter the 5-year agreement.
Okay.
That's fine. The one comment I want to say is we should always get something in writing, especially from an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
They're paid very well by the city. That should just be an expectation that we should have it in writing. If it's good to go, it should be written that it's good to go.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Stay.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Sokolovic and Ms. Baptiste Perez have abstained. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Siegel.
Thank you.
Next item is discussion and possible approval to issue solicitation for commodity and commercial food and paper / cleaning supplies bids for the 22-23 school year. And Mr. Garrity, Food and Nutrition Director, is going to present this item.
Hi, good evening, board
Hi.
members, Chairman Weldon, Superintendent Testani. Food and Nutrition is requesting discussion and possible approval for the solicitation of bids in the following categories, which would be our main food supplies, paper goods, and cleaning supplies. So this is an annual bid for these items, and we're requesting discussion, possible action, and approval.
Okay. Are there any questions? All got this material in your package. An annual thing. He's just going out to the marketplace. Okay. Is there a motion to approve issuing the solicitation as presented by the Food and Nutrition Director? Moved by Mr. Benahan. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Macaron. there any further discussion? One question, when would you be anticipating coming back to us with the actual bids and a recommendation to issue the contract?
There's quite a bit of information that gets submitted.
No, a timeframe. When are you going to
Timeframe.
come back?
Most likely,
July?
early August,
Uh,
early August.
Early August. Okay,
Yes.
so we'll pick up the discussion again at that point with whatever comes in. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Garrity. Discussion and possible approval to enter into memorandum of understanding with United Illuminating Company for various energy conservation projects. Mr. Garcia, are you still here?
Yes, he is.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you have the floor.
Good evening. Good evening. We're putting in front of you an MOU that we like to enter into with United Illuminating. The MOU calls out a 45% rebate on any energy projects that we embark on. The goal for this MOU is to complete the lighting upgrades in the last 30 schools that have not had any lighting upgrades done. At this point in time, we've already audited 9 buildings. United Illuminating is willing to put up $500,000 a year for the next 3 years. We did a quick calculation today. We think we can get 6 schools done in the short term, the first wave. Estimated savings plus or minus $200,000 for that first 6 tranche of schools. So there's a substantial amount of energy conservation and savings, along with the carbon reduction that this program would help us throughout the district.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Garcia? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to enter into the memorandum of understanding with United Illuminating for the various energy conservation projects as presented by Mr. Garcia. Moved by Mr. Sakalovic.
Second.
Second by Mr. Benahan. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
And thank you, everyone.
Okay. Discussion and possible approval to enter into joint contract with the City of Bridgeport for retiree prescription insurance with Optum RX, Inc. We have Ulysses Rogers from our Payroll and Benefits Office, and also Ms. Miles from the city side. So, Mr. Rogers.
Good evening, Board, Chairman Weldon, and Superintendent Testani. We're here to present the approval of the RFP for the Medicare Prescription Benefit Manager, which is Optum RX RFP that was presented in last week's contracts committee meeting. This RFP pretty much was moving from our previous carrier, which is Express Scripts, over to Optum RX. And in doing so, we realized a savings of approximately, hold on. We realized a savings of approximately $7.1 million, which for the Board of Ed is about $2.1 million over a 3-year period.
Okay. Are there any questions? Mr. Sakalovic?
Yes, you said total savings is 7.1 and
It's
Board of
the
Ed.
city side is, the district side is 2 point, so the overall savings is 7.1.
Correct. So the city's getting a $5 million savings, and what's the proportion of city employees versus board
Retirees.
employees?
These are retirees.
I mean, retirees. I mean, I think we've got more employees than the city, yet the city
Well-
is reaping more savings.
What's the ratio of retirees, city to Board of Ed?
Hold on one sec here. Bear with me 1 second.
I think part of the impact could be the earlier retirement age when you start factoring in police and
That is
fire.
correct. That is
Okay.
correct. The bargaining unit also determines the actual savings based upon time of retirement. The bargaining unit itself, which is also a factor in the actual cost, overall cost savings to this RFP. But let me pull that information here.
And if that's too convoluted, we could compare apples to apples. Let's compare premium payments, us versus the city. What's the proportion of the premium payments? That should remain consistency. And it's 60% of the premiums, we should be getting 60% of the savings.
What do you mean, the retention?
As far as the premiums we're paying for this product, for the healthcare. So if we're paying like 100,000, the city's paying 50,000, and the savings 10,000, we should get 7, so we should get 3. It should be proportional to the premium.
I understand.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Monty Miles. I'm from the city side. The savings is based on the enrollment and the usage of medications. So when they determine the savings, it's based on the fact that the city retirees, which there are more enrolled in the plan, because not all of your teachers are in this plan, and a closed group. It's only retirees over 65 on Medicare.
Okay.
And these are non-represented employees, correct? They're not certified staff. I mean, not certified staff.
What? Oh, this would be
It's
any.
a combination.
It's a combination of certified and non-certified.
How are these numbers determined proportionality? Is Ms. Siegel looking at the premium payment on each? I mean, who came up with the numbers and how?
Well, the
It's
numbers
based on
are
utilization.
I have a question.
as well as rebates.
And
Well,
subsidies.
It was mentioned that there are more the city of Bridgeport retirees than actual Board of Education retirees utilizing the program. And I think the question is pretty straightforward. How many more?
What's the ratio? What percentage of the total are city side versus Board of Ed side? 60-40?
Give me 1 second. So based on the May enrollment, it was 926 Board of Ed to 1,205 city members enrolled in the plans.
That's about 43.
The ratio seems
43 to 57%. 43% on our side, 57 on the other.
So we should be realizing maybe sort of $3 million. That's,
Well, but do these numbers fluctuate month to month? You said the May enrollment.
Right, the numbers fluctuate, and so does the premium
rebates.
and so does the subsidies and rebates based on utilization by the members that are in the plan.
So these savings are estimates. They're not necessarily hard numbers.
Correct.
Correct.
Are there any other questions?
I just don't see how.
I think they're using numbers and we're perhaps interpreting this as this is a hard number savings, but they just said it fluctuates and based on the future enrollment, they can't really give us a hard number. This is an estimate. They probably should have made that clearer in the beginning.
Even just looking at estimates, we're talking about 2 versus 5, which is 250% fluctuation in the dollar amount. Yet we only got 40% fluctuation in employees. I think these numbers really need to be more closely looked at. I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about utilization, I think we need to look at the utilization to make sure we're getting our bang for the buck. Yeah, this is coming out of education dollars. We need to be very closely guarded, especially since we're not getting any money from the city. Because we also got to ensure we're not taking any money.
When the savings are reported to the city and the board, they are broken out by city and Board of Ed. So they are definitely going, the board is realizing its savings and so is the city.
We asked to see them.
As they are ongoing?
As they are ongoing monthly.
Okay. So I guess the sentiment is for these numbers to be reported as they're ongoing. Is that something that can be done?
The Board of Ed receives the same reports that the city does.
Okay. So we just need somebody from the staff to report it to us,
We could do that.
basically. Is that acceptable? I mean, it's not something they currently give us, but if you ask for it, they'll provide it. Okay.
Yeah,
You can make that a regular thing for the finance committee, review of retiree health benefits.
I'm still not comfortable with this spread. I would personally know at this point. I would like to have like numbers that actually went into this number that are telling us we're saving 2 in this 85. And I would like to see the rationale in black and white before I
I don't think this should be held up. I mean,
Aren't we technically already in contract with?
yeah, I think we've commenced. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's what was discussed during the meeting.
Yeah, so
And we're already in this.
And
This is a-
and may I ask why we're reading this? This is supposed to be like an annual thing. Why is it being presented to us now? And people's failure to plan doesn't constitute an emergency.
well, can you guys explain what happens if we don't enter into the agreement? What happens to the Board of Ed employees at that point? Retirees.
So you've already entered into this agreement, is that correct?
That's correct.
This is a ratification of that agreement, is that correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
So I guess the underlying question is, why are we doing this after the fact as opposed to in advance of the agreement being entered into?
The contract, well, we completed the RFP process. The contract went to legal. It went back and forth between the two companies. We have the contract but we needed to implement it to start realizing the savings as of January 1st.
You're asking, since this is a joint contract, why the RFP never came through the Board of Education Contract Committee, or did it?
No.
So, but basically, co-signer on this contract, the city's gonna save $5 million on a contract we gotta sign off on and pay for. It was never put before us to even go out to bid, which should be the procedure on any joint contract between the city and Board of Education. I find this totally unacceptable.
It doesn't change where we are, though. I'm not saying, I'm just saying it.
And on the yes vote, they're gonna keep doing it over and over.
What are the
So
ramifications?
ramifications were never answered.
Yeah, what's the ramifications if the board chooses not to approve this?
That's a board decision. The city's moving forward with the contract.
Jay,
So the Board of Education.
Jay, what happens?
We would lose coverage and have to find our own outside coverage.
Define we. We who? We the Board of Ed,
Yes,
not we.
We the Board of Ed,
We ever even put out an
which can drive up the cost because we're not realizing being in a joint contract with the city.
So I don't.
So you failed to warn us, you failed to give us advance notice, and then put us in this penny pincher position.
I agree. I feel like this is feeling rushed. All this information coming up now.
It's rushed. I don't like the fact that we're in the position of, if we don't do this, we're going to have to go out to bid separately, and that will result in a higher cost to the district. Maybe this needs to be dealt with separately at the staff level, but this is not appropriate. This should have come to us last fall.
How long is this?
Mr.
contract
Chair,
Ms. Brown?
Mr. Chair, once we decide what we're gonna do, I think that we need to go back to implementing, documents being presented to us in a timely manner for something like this to happen. I think it's unfair to the board to be put in this situation.
Yeah, I think we're in between a rock and a hard place. We don't have a whole lot of choice at this point. That's why I say this needs to be dealt with, I think, at the staff level, because this is not acceptable.
May I ask how long this contract is? I'm sorry.
How long is this contract for? 3 years?
This is a 3-year contract.
So all in favor?
Needs to be a motion.
I thought somebody made a motion here
No.
and that we followed it up with further discussion. Okay, is there a motion to approve this? I will make the motion. Is there a second? Understand, if this fails and we drop off this contract, we are going to drive up our own cost for this.
So, Mr. Chair, question. It's not the way you can talk with somebody else, you or the superintendent, try to figure it out. First of all, why at the last moment? It's like that gentleman, you're tied. Do it right now.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know, but why it has to be the last moment when we don't have no choice, we have to make a vote. The thing last moment didn't work.
No, I understand that.
So we
But
work a little more professional, and like you said, last fall and on time, so we can work much better and everybody be happy on the same page. That's my opinion.
and we're all in agreement. But do you want to table this to here?
I think it is.
In the alternate, our folks will lose coverage. They will just get dropped. And they'll have nothing while we go out to bid for a separate policy that in likelihood is going to be much more. And I don't like it any more than any of you, but I'm also thinking of the retirees who are just going to be without coverage.
No, I understand that,
Uh,
but
and
we
I-
need to lay it down to the city that you cannot and cannot continue these types of conduct. If something's supposed to come to us in the fall, and then you come to us the middle of June, that's completely unacceptable, and we need to be prepared. If they're missing to bring it, we should have been prepared to bring it up and say, you know, we have an alternative, you can go on your own. So it needs to be better communicated in advance from the city side. Stuff needs to be in writing, stuff needs to be notified in advance, and it's completely unfair, but I hear what you're saying regarding the retirees.
The city and the board conducted this RFP together. It wasn't the city did an RFP and then asked the board if they wanted to join. It was conducted together.
But the city had time to consider it, go back and forth,
Well,
and
And
it's
the
coming
board
to us
was
now.
with us on every step. You're
That's why I say I think this is a discussion to be had at the staff level, because something went wrong at the staff level on our side, not the city side, where this was not brought to our attention through the normal course of business, i.e., we just had Mr. Garrity give a presentation. He wants to go out to the market. He brought it to us. He said what he needs to do. We told him to go out and do it. And then in a couple of months, he's going to come back with the results. And that didn't happen on the Board of Ed side of this RFP. Nobody from our staff came to us whenever in the fall or the winter and said, hey, just so you know, we want to go out jointly to bid with the city on this. Do you have an objection to it? Here's the proposed RFP, yada, yada, yada. And they did not come back to us once they had some sort of a recommendation and the contract was reviewed by city attorney and all of that stuff. They came back to us after all of that had been done at the district staff level. They came back when all of that had already happened. And now they're saying, if you don't approve this, you know, everybody's going to lose their coverage. And we're going to have to go out to the market on our own and redo this. And result will be a higher cost. And again, the most important part, our retirees are going to be without coverage. And to be placed in this position is completely inappropriate. So this is not, we're not blaming the city. I mean, again, this is a staff level discussion. I don't know who's responsible for what, and that's not for us to be getting into. But this is where we are.
I will investigate further. I just have a question. I think I know the answer to. Was this the best response in terms of savings for both city and Board of Ed that was received from the RFP?
Yes,
Correct.
it is.
So regardless of what the timing is, this was the best savings that would have been realized but the board is being presented with right now.
That is
Correct.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I made the motion. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Macaron. I'm just thinking of the consequences for the people that I don't like this any more than anyone else, but what are we going to do?
As am I, but I would like to see how these numbers, still like to see how these numbers were arrived at.
Okay.
And
You'd like a further report?
And before we remit payments to make sure we're getting our optimal savings. The city put us on the line for it. The money's flowed to the city and we reimburse the city, or we pay the vendor directly.
So there's a monthly report that was mentioned. I think that monthly report can be and is public information, so, and be reviewed, maybe at the finance committee level, if that's what.
And not for nothing, this is not the first time we've had a discussion on a joint RFP or a joint venture with the city with us being excluded. It was about 2.5, 3 years back, I believe it was a workers' comp split or something like that. our employees. I can't recall exactly what it was, but there was an issue before.
Was that the health insurance? We went to the
think-
state
Yeah.
plan?
Oh, that was
That was before
There
him.
was a split between that, and we had a similar discussion where, at that time, city council totally froze us out. Not the city council, I apologize. The city side totally froze us out. We were supposed to have like a board representative at the discussion that wasn't really being followed. And we had to come back again on an emergency basis. If we don't do this,
That was at least 5 or 6 years. When we went, yeah, it was 5 years ago. We went to the Connecticut Partnership 2.0.
No, it might have been something.
Okay.
But this is the second time I've been involved in a vote where the city acted and we just had no choice other than going along. Now, they could keep doing this to us over and over and over again. Now this time I'm looking at that 2 versus 5. I've got real concerns about that. And now I'm under pressure to make a vote. Larry's losing their savings because the city already acted. And I don't know if this is beneficial to us as much as the city. I would like to see, 60-40, I would like to see 60-40. Split would make more sense. When you look at a number, it either makes sense or it don't. This numbers just don't make sense to me. And we could keep beating this horse round and round and round.
Has Mr. Macaron left the meeting or did he just, I do want to just wait a minute for him?
Motion for a 5-minute recess?
Yes, good idea.
Motion for a recess made by Ms. Baptiste Perez, second by Mr. Kolovec. All in favor?
This one's mine. Andres.
Mr. Rogers, if you can hear me, we're about to mute you, and I'm not sure if you happen to be on a computer or if you're calling from a phone. Whatever the case is, stand by, because mute is coming your way.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to reconvene. Wait for everybody. Okay, we ready? So I made the motion and I believe Mr. Macaron seconded it for the sake of getting the discussion going. Is there anything else to be talked about with this, or do we want to take a vote?
I have a comment, Chair.
You have a what?
A comment.
Comment, okay.
Who's in charge for this situation, this bid, go outside and bring it to us or to the committee before this happened today?
Mr. Testani would know that.
I would have to investigate further on who was aware and who wasn't. I don't want to speak.
Yeah, that's why I said I think some of this needs to be a discussion at the staff level because somebody didn't do what they should have done.
Exactly, like you said, the situation came in, bringing the presentation, we read it, and then we have a solution, we got, hope you find who was the person in charge of that, because it's gonna make.
Anything else?
Just confirm it's a 3-year contract.
You said 3 years, correct, Mr. Rogers? You're still muted. Per Rita. If you're talking, Ulysses, we can't hear you. You're muted.
He did say 3 years.
He did, yeah. I heard that too, yeah. All right, so all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? What?
Wait, it was still muted. I don't know if Bobby got to vote.
Ms. Brown, you're mute. Okay. All right, let's start this again. All in favor? Aye. Want to do a roll call? Okay, hang on. Ms. Baptiste Perez? Pass. I, John Weldon, aye, reluctantly. Mr. Sokolovic?
No.
Mr. Benahan?
Are they gonna affect the staff and any person? No.
What?
No. Knowing that they're gonna get it, the staff's gonna have some issues, stuff like that. I said no.
So you're voting to not do this because I'm not understanding your vote. Because if we vote this no, people will lose their coverage.
They will not have prescription coverage.
That's why my vote was reluctantly, because I just don't want to see that happen. Do you want to take a pass and think about it? It's important. That's the only reason. Mr. Macaron,
Yes, not happy.
Ms. Brown,
I'm gonna abstain.
abstain. We're back to Ms. Baptiste Perez, who took a pass.
Ladies first.
Mr. Chair, that would be helpful if you'll explain the impact of.
Let's clarify. As I said to you a few moments ago, if we vote no, then we will not be a part of this policy, which means that our retirees will lose this coverage while we go out to bid for our own separate policy, which likely will be a greater cost to us because it's a smaller group of people. Does everybody understand that? So we have 2 people who have passed.
I don't think it's fair to our retirees to suffer the consequence of somebody,
Of
whether
us.
it's internally in the board.
Yeah.
Or in the staff of the district.
Mhm.
Or the Board of Education, or on the city side, to lose their benefits and to actually may end up having to pay more. And so the date, like 3 years from now, is very important because I'm still going to be on this board. So
You'll be
it
looking
better
out
come
for
to
it.
my attention.
If it happens again,
Timely.
it's going to be an issue.
So a very reluctant. You sure you don't want to answer for me? It's all about equal opportunity. That's right. Reluctant, yes.
Okay, Mr. Benahan,
That's what we could,
you do have the option of abstaining like Ms. Brown did if you're not
Okay,
comfortable
abstain.
one way or the other.
I don't feel that I'm right for employee. I'm not sure about the these things, but I'm not.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Chair,
yes,
I can't hear.
can you hear now?
I can hear you, but I can't hear everyone.
Oh, Ms. Baptiste Perez did not have her mic adjacent to her,
This?
but he didn't have turn it on.
Oh.
Is it working?
It should be on.
Okay. Ms. Baptiste Perez expressed her reluctance at voting yes, but she did vote yes because she did not feel it was fair for retirees to, am I good?
Yeah.
For retirees to lose their coverage. Mr. Benahan had a similar sentiment, but he chose to abstain like you did. So I'm going to read through the list and just clarify who voted finally what. Ms. Baptiste Perez voted a reluctant yes. I, John Weldon, also voted a reluctant yes. Mr. Skolovic voted no. Mr. Benahan abstained. Mr. McGarone also voted a reluctant yes, and Ms. Brown abstained. So it is passed with 1, 2, 3 yes, 1 no, and 2 abstentions. Now we have a similar discussion and possible approval, full board to enter into a joint contract with the city of Bridgeport for retiree Medicare Advantage insurance with Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield. It's my understanding that it's a similar set of circumstances, that the contract is already there and this is a ratification. Do you want to briefly describe what this is all about, Mr. Rogers? You're still muted. Are you there? Who is going to present this item, Mr. Testani?
Mr. Rogers.
You know, to press, whatever it is. He's on the phone.
Does someone know how to get in touch with Mr. Rogers to let him know?
From what you may be muted from the host. That's what it looks like on my end.
Can the host unmute him?
No, can only mute them. You can't unmute.
Oh.
So
*6.
Can I just clarify, because for my own understanding, I want to make sure that this is never repeated again at the staff level. The issue we're addressing is the notification prior. Outside of that, the issuance of the RFP, the receiving of the proposals, and then going with the best one would have all occurred in the same.
Hello?
Mr. Rogers.
Can you hear me?
Yes. And the approval coming here would have been the same. So it's just the notification. So you know the RFP is out there.
You're approving we under a normal set of circumstances, the board would approve entering into a joint solicitation with the city. Then they would go out, they would get their proposals, they would come back, they would score them, whatever approval process is gone through on the city side, they do. And then our side goes through our process for approval. Okay, you understand?
Well, I think Mr. Rogers will,
like I said, that
yeah,
there's separate staff level discussions which probably should occur.
Gotcha.
But
I just want to be clear.
In essence, that's the way it would work.
Because I think we would have arrived here just saying it.
It would have
anyway.
I don't disagree. Yeah, I'm sure we would, but there would be a lot less question.
Gotcha.
And people would not feel like they were, had a gun to their head.
Gotcha. Just want to be clear.
Okay. Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
So you hear everything we were just saying about the Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield. This is a similar set of circumstances as the
as Optum Rx for the prescription plan, but we are already in a contract with Anthem Medicare Advantage plan. So if you decided to,
it's a renewal.
Well, we chose to renew because of the the savings that they presented to us.
It's not a new supplier. It's the existence. It's the provider of record.
That is, we decided to stay with them because of these savings that they presented to us. Correct.
Anybody have any questions?
I'll be short.
Please. Yeah, this is all
just
a rehash.
You don't want all my other arguments. I would just like to know the premium payment proportions that employs portions of each. Yeah, the same proportion questions savings or premium payment.
Yeah, what's the split, city versus BOE?
The split is the same. It's 43% for the BOE. The city, it's 57%. The BOE the overall savings is approximately 3.7 million. The BOE savings is 1.7 million of that 3.7.
And what portion of the premiums does the BOE pay and the city pay?
He just said that.
No, he just said the savings.
Oh, the total premium. What's the total premium breakout?
Let's see here. The total premium is the monthly premium was, no, that's not right. You want the annual. Hold on. Hold on 1 second here. Just want to make sure I got the right one here. All right, hold on 1 second. Original. Don't have this here.
It's the annual premium.
Don't have it here. Hold on 1 sec. Just for the BOE, hold on. Hold on 1 sec here. Premium here. We have here 977.
I mean, while we're waiting,
Let's see here. Hold on.
because these numbers are not readily available, telling me this decision rationale is not well thought out. Because how these things split, and these numbers would be readily available. We made a decision that we're paying 60% of the premiums to get 60% of the benefits, or what have you. These numbers should be readily available. This is telling me how much thought went into proportion.
We can provide that information if we're able to table the meeting. We can provide that data to you.
I only got questions on these numbers, and I think, are we in the same boat?
Yeah, basically.
If we would have,
Even though I disagree and I oppose, since we're in the same boat, it's going to be the same exact outcome.
we tried to get 5 different providers to go to bid. 3 of them denied. There was only Aetna and Anthem that went to bid for this particular RFP. The savings for staying with Anthem was the 3.7 million. With Aetna, it only averaged out to 150,000. That's why we decided to stay, because of the fees that they decided that they weren't going to incur over the next 3-year period.
Mr. Chair?
Okay. So the original question was, what's the total premium?
And what's the percentage that we contribute?
And what's our share of that?
I don't have that readily handy. I would have
You had a monthly premium before?
We had, hold on, go back here. We had a premium based upon a graduated scale, based upon the plan type. There are 9 different type of plan types that help determine the premium.
Okay. You had a further question?
Take the vote. I want to see these numbers that the decision was made based upon. And if there's anything wrong with the numbers, I think we should go back to the city and make.
You can always,
reallocate this share, and if it's unfair that we're overpaying, maybe institute some sort of legal action to rectify the problem.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve entering into this joint contract with the City of Bridgeport for retiree Medicare Advantage insurance with Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield? I'll make the motion. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Macarone. Roll call vote?
Sure.
Christine Baptiste Perez.
Pass.
John Weldon. A reluctant yes. Sakalovic. Mr. Benahan. Macarone. Ms. Brown.
I abstain.
It's back to Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Can't be playing around with people's benefits, man.
No, I get it.
It's
This is
Again,
I mean,
Ms. Brown abstained. If you're really torn, you always have that third choice.
this is a different because it's an extension of the existing provider, not an RFP.
yeah.
Well,
And it's extensions, it still passes.
that's if you're really conflicted, it's an option that's available.
I abstain.
Mr. Benahan. Read this off for the record. Christine Baptiste Perez abstains. John Weldon votes a reluctant yes. Sakalovic, no. Mr. Benahan abstains. Mr. Macarone, reluctant yes, and Ms. Brown abstains. This motion passes by a vote of 2 yes, 1 no, and 3 abstentions. Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. You can mute yourself now, Mr. Rogers. Or someone can. Okay. Last item on the agenda is district security protocols briefing. We have Lieutenant Paul Greck from the Bridgeport Police Department. He is the gentleman who is in general oversight of district security. If he'd come to the podium. I don't know if everyone here has met Lieutenant Greck. Now, security matters do qualify for discussion in executive session. Lieutenant Greck, are you anticipating to be talking about anything that should only be discussed in executive session?
Yes.
Okay, in reliance on his, whatever he plans to present, I'm going to seek a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Sakalovic.
Brief discussion. As we're inside discussing, if we could come up with non-safety sensitive things to report on to community benefit.
There is you're planning an open house. Is that correct?
Yes, Lieutenant Grech and I have sat with Chief Garcia to try to do a collaborative kind of town hall. Just trying to nail down a date for that to occur. There was a request. Unfortunately, it will not be permitted to do one in every city council district. If they feel that it's important enough, they'll make the attempt to show up. The city's not talking about Chicago or Los Angeles.
And I assume
city council folks can get to a central location to attend if they think that this is important enough.
I'm just thinking more of just a high level overview, not a detailed discussion of what happened. I mean, just to come out of executive session and say, okay, we heard it and left.
We can, I don't know what he's going to talk about. So let's hear what he has to say. And then when we come out, we can decide if there's some highlights we want to make. Fair enough? Okay.
Yeah.
Present in the executive session would be members of the board, the superintendent and police lieutenant Can you hear us, Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we are reconvened. The time is noted as being 9:40 PM. Mr. Testani, you have something to say?
Yeah, I'd just like to kind of just give a brief overview of the executive session. I want to thank Lieutenant Greg for providing a report on some of the school security processes and procedures that we do have in place. I think one of the highlights is to know that the advocacy that is on, and the ask for more school resource officers has to be emphasized, that these are not police officers to be in our school buildings. We haven't had police officers in our school buildings in 10 years. They were taken out. It's just an opportunity for us to secure support. So there's safe passage for children to and from school until what we have deemed several years ago, 10 years ago now, safe corridors. I think it's important to also note that there's extensive training that's done and drills that are performed unannounced throughout the school year in preparation for any response to an emergency. I think the biggest piece to all of this is the relationship and the collaboration, professional collaboration between the district and the Bridgeport Police Department through Lieutenant Greg and his efforts. I think it's critical to know that the information that is provided is usually time sensitive and critical in making sure that decisions are made, sound decisions to keep children and staff safe. That's how I'd like to summarize the discussion that was had.
Okay, and you are going to be holding a town hall?
We are in the process of trying to nail down a date for a town hall where we can discuss not only school safety, but also ways that parents and families can assist in providing valuable information so we can work collaboratively and together to ensure the safety of all students and staff throughout the district.
That'll be by the end of the month.
Working in conjunction, if we can't get Chief Garcia a date where she is available, we may have to then just Lieutenant Greg, myself. But I'd also like to bring in some of our support staff folks who can add other layers to this, because as we know in these incidents that occur during schools, there are signals and there are things that everyone, when they look back, could have identified. And if you do and are aware of certain triggers, what can you do as a mom, as a dad, as an uncle, as a grandmother, as a brother, as a sister, to help assist to prevent maybe an incident from occurring?
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Second?
Second.
Favor?
Hi.
Nighty night.